Welcome to the King's Court Podcast. I am your host, King Roberto, and I'm coming to you from the modified King's Lair for this podcast, episode 8. It is titled Faith in the Court, and it's a little bit about the faith in the court. You know, what are the values? What are the principles? What makes it go? You know, and it ties into a little bit of the legacy and the family aspect of it for me. And, you know, this is one of those podcasts where, for me, it kind of will be one that I can reflect on. And who knows, one day when I'm old, when I have Alzheimer's, if I have Alzheimer's, you know, I might be able to watch this version and it might pull something out of me and say, oh, there he is. Welcome back, King Roberto, from wherever you've been. Or maybe not. Lord willing, I'm not going to get the Alzheimer's. But if I do, on the off chance, this will hopefully bring me out. So like I did at the last podcast, the first thing we're going to do before we get too far down the road is we are going to read from the King's Mailbag. That's right, the King's Mailbag. And today, believe it or not, there is actually something in it. There is, let's check Instagram first. There are no messages in Instagram. Well, that's a bummer. Anything in X? Nope, nothing in X. Let's check the Gmail. Look, there's a couple that are unread in Gmail because, you know, I check my mail all the time. But look, anything of interest? Nope. I'm advertising and buy this. Oh, here's one. Here's a great email. Look at this. This is from Vineet Smith. Vineet writes and says, the title of the email is The TJ Show Made $6,000. You can too. Is your podcast earning the revenue it deserves? I can help you with that. Well, I have to tell you, Vineet, I'm going to delete your email because I really don't need to make money doing this. It's something that I do for myself, for fun, for my family, for my friends, and for all of the listeners to learn a little bit about King Roberto and what makes a king tick. You know, this is my legacy. This is my reflection back on life through, you know, October 2025 today. And that's the 8 episodes before it have been kind of reflective and maybe looking forward where we're going to go. But the faith of King Roberto is today's topic, and that all started when I was a little kid. Faith, when you think of faith or you talk to somebody about faith, more often than not, it ties back to a religious belief. And I'm not a person who's going to preach at you. I'm not going to get churchy with you. You are welcome to believe what you want to believe. If you believe in God and Jesus Christ, then I'm right there with you. If you believe in God and Allah or Buddha or, you know, some higher power, God bless you. Good luck. I hope it works out. Because, I mean, let's face it, if you're talking about believing in something like God or a higher power or, you know, eternal life, whatever it might be, it is a blind faith. You don't know, sitting here today, what you're really gonna walk into or not. It is simply a belief without seeing any evidence of it actually happening. We've got the stories. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of stories. The Bible, in my opinion, is a great source of the stories. Probably the best book. And to be honest with you, I haven't read it from cover to cover, but I'm probably one of those guys who would benefit a lot from reading it from cover to cover. But let's face it, my boat sailed. It's already gone. There is no saving me other than what I'm trying to do from day to day. And get better and be the best version of myself that I can be. But yeah, that's a good book that I probably should read more of. But there's parts of it that I get through mass and readings and, you know, daily scriptures or whatever might come through my email. I get fed the Bible. So anyways, everybody's got their faith. Everybody's got what they believe in. And this is, to be honest with you, this ties into my favorite time of year, which is Christmas. And I use this analogy all the time with the little kids, because there's undoubtedly somebody who brings up Santa Claus, right? You never see Santa Claus. You never see him when he comes to your house. You never see him when he drops off the presents. But the presents always show up. And that happens all the time. Just because you don't see Santa Claus doesn't mean that there's no Santa Claus, right? Right. Of course. Just because I don't see an angel, I might not see an angel, doesn't mean that there are not angels. Just because I don't see Jesus Christ doesn't mean that there's not Jesus Christ. And that is the epitome of faith, is that for some people, there's no such thing. They are so rooted in materialistic beliefs that there is no believing without seeing. And it is all seeing is believing. This is the Santa Claus movie. This all rings true. And if you don't agree, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is what I believe, though. I don't need to see it to believe it. I will believe it simply for the sake of believing, because I believe that if I'm going to be wrong, I don't want to be wrong on the other side. I would rather live life believing in something than live life not believing something, to find out that when I die, there is another world, there is an eternal life, and if only I had believed in it, I might get there. So there is a little bit of that drive and reasoning for me to continue to believe. Am I a great person? No, absolutely not. I'm not perfect. I am not this figure that everybody looks up to, nor do I believe that I qualify as that. I'm fairly hard on myself in that regard, but there are people who I know who love me who will argue about that. And they, that's just, I love them for it, and that's just the way it is. But my faith can be traced back to when I was a child. My mom was Catholic. Her whole family was Catholic. They were raised in the Catholic Church. My grandmother went to Catholic Mass every Sunday to St. Mel's Church in Fair Oaks at 12 o'clock. She was at the 12 o'clock Mass for as long as I can remember. And if they weren't home, they would be over at their beach house at Bodega Bay, and they would go to the little church in Petaluma. And they would go to Mass there. Might not have been Petaluma, come to think of it. It was a little bit closer to it, but I cannot remember the name of the town. But it was a little church. We used to go there with her when we were kids. But that's my upbringing, was in the Catholic Church. I was baptized a Catholic. I went to St. Mel's Church and school in Fair Oaks, received First Communion in there. I was an altar boy when I was there. And yes, I was the cutest altar boy of all. I had all of my hair, and it was nice and long and full and thick and blonde. And I had the same beautiful blue eyes that I have now, which, see, yes, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm looking right at the camera with my big, beautiful blue eyes right now. See? And I'm smiling. Jeez. Anyways, had all my hair back then, had my cute blue eyes. I was a cute dude. I was a cute kid, and then went to St. Mel's all the way up through 6th grade. And I will say, the thing about being an altar boy, because we were altar boys. They were altar boys back then. There were no altar servers. Girls, I'm sorry, you just didn't get a fair shake. There's altar servers that are girls now. It wasn't back in the day, and that's just the way it was. I can't change it. I can't fix it. Don't hate me. I didn't make the rules back then. They were the rules. But anyways, you got to be up in the front of the church. You got to be up there with the priest while he was giving Mass, while he was doing the readings from, everybody came up and do the readings, first reading, second reading. The priest does the gospel reading, and, you're up there. I mean, you're receiving like the hosts, the communion, you're receiving all of the stuff when the money when that they collect from the collections, and you're up in the front, everybody's watching you, and it's a pretty cool thing when you're in, third grade or fourth grade, for everybody to be watching you. And we took it serious because we didn't want to mess up, because if you rang those bells at the wrong time during the Eucharistic prayer and stuff, oh boy, you would get in trouble from Father. But anyways, it was fun. There's still pictures of it floating around when I was a young kid. My parents have it at their house and stuff. If you ever get a chance to come see King Roberto, I'll pull the picture book out for you, and we can look at when I was an altar boy. But it was fun. Anyways, my religious background is in that until sixth grade, and then we kind of got away from that. But the thing that kind of stuck with me was, of course, the Ten Commandments, because that is what was drilled into us in grade school, first, second, third grade. It was Ten Commandments. Jesus loves you and all this other stuff. But that's what kind of stuck with me. As we got away from that, we moved when I graduated sixth grade, and I made the jump to public school. And the heathens at the public school totally infiltrated my life, my family's life, and I was never the same. I'm still not the same. I'm scarred deeply from my public school days, but some of the scars are pretty fun scars to talk about. We definitely had a good time getting the scars. That's no doubt about that. Some of them were not such good times. I mean, there's a broken, torn quadriceps tendon right now that I'm dealing with. Is not very fun to get. Let me tell you that. So, yes, that dog's a lucky dog that he came back and is alive today still. So, anyways, back to the topic at hand of the faith and all of that stuff. So I kind of got away from it for a little while, but those core principles of it stuck. They had formed and were making up. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. I can tell you this now. But they were making up who I was going to be in the future. So some people call that faith your principles, your moral compass, your belief system, whatever you might call it. Everybody's got it. Everybody believes in something, or nobody believes in nothing. I mean, there are guiding principles for everybody. They may not be the same moral compass as all of us on the same wheel, but everybody's got that thing that guides them. My favorite one, though, is thou shalt not kill. So don't forget that. Don't kill anybody today or tomorrow or yourself or down the road. Everybody deserves to live. Leave yourself alone. Leave other people alone. There's nothing worth shooting somebody over. There's nothing worth killing anybody over. That's the biggest one for me, because I don't want to be shot for what I believe or say. And I don't think anybody else should be shot for what they believe or say either. Now, if you do something to somebody's kids, boy, don't make me cross that line, because if you did something to my kids or my grandkids, I might not be able to hold that one up. So let's just not find out. But yeah, those 10 commandments are a good guide for sure for life and how to live. And they're in the Bible, right? The Bible is one of those books that probably should read more. Definitely probably should read more. But, at some point you're just too old and there's no saving you. I'm hopeful that doesn't necessarily apply to me, but there's that, the past transgressions and everything that you hope you get forgiveness. The trip through purgatory, if you get that far, you hope you can make it onto the other side of the pearly gates. So I'm doing my best. But that whole faith and belief system and the grounding and integrity is kind of what makes up, a big part of the king's court here. Because, every empire needs a foundation. And faith, however you defined it, is what keeps the whole thing from cracking when life gets heavy. So we talked a lot about, my connection through church and everything. I did take a break from the Catholic Church. I would go to mass, once in a while. After we got to high school, and I would pop in once in a while trying to stay connected, but it didn't really work out. It just wasn't a priority in life anymore. But I would go for Easter and Christmas, right? The big ones, because those are the ones you don't want to miss. I mean, Easter and Christmas. If you're a Christian or you know the Christian faith, you know that those are the big ones. Just don't miss those ones. And we're pretty good about going on Christmas most of the time. I did not go to all of them when I was a kid, but I blame my parents for that because they wouldn't drive me, right? But I don't think I was necessarily saying, hey, let's go to church on Sunday either. But hey, anyways, went off to college and kind of popped in and out of a church back in Colorado. There was nothing that really resonated with me. And so ended up getting married, having a family. And we bounced around through a couple Christian churches. But really what brought me back was when my mom died. And I remember it vividly as if it was yesterday, that night, that all went down, because I was in the parking lot and I was not happy with God that I lost her. And I let him know. And I let all of the neighborhood around the hospital know out in that parking lot. And that kind of shook me, because when funerals happen, when somebody close to you dies like that and you're not ready for it, it's a shock. And that is 100% when I came back around. Because when we did the funeral, Dad and Mom had talked, and Mom was going to do a Catholic funeral. We were not involved in a Catholic church. My family was not involved in a Catholic church at that time. And when Mom died, we ended up connecting with Holy Trinity Church. And the father up there was Monsignor Kidder. And we kind of got hooked up with them. And through that, we had one of the priests from St. Mel's come up. I can't remember which one it was, to do the funeral at the church. And we were sitting down over at the mortuary one afternoon because, when somebody dies, you spend a lot of time at a mortuary. And during that time, he and I sat down in this round room around this table, and we were just talking, the priest and I was like, what can I do to get back on the right side of God's grace? And it turned out to be kind of a little confession there. And he said, you talking to me and telling me all this stuff is basically your start. And so for me, after Mom died and we got through all that, we got through the funeral and everything, I can look back now and there were things that happened. And that was an ugly time for me. I was probably not the best dad. I was probably not the best brother to be around. But I did a lot of heavy lifting that I can say now, looking back at it. And for me, there was this strength that I found inside that said, well, everybody is going to be able to grieve. Somebody needs to keep this family going. And that was me, because Dad was a wreck. Brothers were a wreck. Everybody was a wreck. And nobody, if it wasn't, and this sounds totally conceited and it's not meant to be, but it is a reflection of the strength that I believe came from God and Jesus. Because the trauma and the severity of the instantaneous loss of somebody you love like that, it shouldn't, be something that's quote unquote easy to get through. And I don't think it was easy to get through for me. But everybody else, it was one of those things where you couldn't have the entire family just shut down, because We have a business that we're running. It's a family business. All of our family depends on the family business. So one of us had to be strong. And nobody else was doing it. And I knew nobody else was doing it. So it was going to be me. And I took that on. And I know that I could not have done that without some help, because it's impossible for me to wrap my head around that. And sure enough, I mean, my meltdowns and breakdowns were far after that. Everybody was like, God, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm just going. The world is not going to stop because mom died. The world isn't going to stop because anybody dies. And that's just a fact of life. And whether you like it or not, that's the way it goes. But yeah, that was my reconnection with the church, because I got hooked up with Holy Trinity, and Susie Hahn was the person that was in charge of the RCIA, the Rite of Christian Catholic Initiation for Adults. Well, I was already baptized as a Catholic. I didn't get a choice either, because mom was like, you're going to be a Catholic. And I was like, wah. So, okay, whatever, fine. Catholic it is. So I was already Catholic. So the RCIA came around, and that's where I really felt the connection to the people at Holy Trinity. And I found my people. I found my church. And that is 100% why I keep going there today. Now, there's definitely changes that happen at that church. But change is part of life. So I found that connection. I went through my confirmation and got it while I was, God, how old was I? I don't know. Must have been 40 or so. Maybe a little bit before that. I don't know. It was a few years ago. Can't remember off the top of my head, because like I said, I can't remember half of the things that happened to me. It was one of those things. I wasn't really worried about how old I was. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And part of what they let you do there is you get to pick your saint, your patron saint of who you get to be. And mine was 100%. There was no doubt I was going to pick St. Joseph, because my family and my kids at that time, because I was a single dad. I was doing the single dad thing. And there's a whole crap load of story behind all that nobody really needs to hear. But yeah, I was doing the single dad thing, and I was St. Joseph, because I was like, yo, that dude's got my back. He's everything that I want to be in a father. So he was 100% the guy I was going to choose to be my patron saint for my confirmation. Then I had another good friend who, Loisima. Oh, I don't know if I can say that name. Oh, well, whatever. She's probably never going to see this anyway, so whatever. She was my my sponsor, and then I had my Aunt Susie, who was my godparent, and they all, everybody came up for that one. So that was pretty cool. Got my confirmation done, and then been going to church off and on, but mostly on for the last however many years since I got that done. And some of my best friends now go to church, come to find out. They're in 4-H camp, and that's part of, what I remember at 4-H camp was there was a little bit of a churchy influence, because we used to sing the Johnny Appleseed song, oh, the Lord is good to me, and so I thank for the Lord for giving me the things I need, the sun and the rain and the apple tree, the Lord is good to me. You can't sing that song anymore at 4-H camp, because there's no religion at 4-H camp. But we sang it when I was a kid doing 4-H camp, and I gotta tell you, we were a bunch of rebels back then. I don't know if we had it right or if we had it wrong, but we had it something. So we were doing different stuff. That's for damn sure. But, a lot of the people in the camp program that I'm involved in now, and a lot of people who are generally speaking in the camp program, have similar core values. They may not all be, religious folks where they believe this or believe that about God and Jesus and all the other stuff. They may have different religions, but they have a core set of values of right and wrong. And that seems to be harder and harder to define in today's world of what is right and what is wrong. For me, it's black and white and, 50 shades of gray. But there is a right and a wrong. And it is I find it easier to define. Now, some people say, oh, that's because you're old. Oh, because I was called a boomer. I am not a boomer. I will say, I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer. So keep that boomer crap with the boomers. It's not me. I'm a Gen Xer. But anyways, um, yeah, for me, it's pretty clear cut path of right and wrong. And I'm not trying to get in here and do a podcast about right and wrong, but there are, for me, very clear delineations on most things. There's a gray area that we operate in, and that's where, you know, we spend a lot of our time, whether intentionally or not, but that's just part of life, is living in that gray area. It's just a matter of how you navigate it. And really the biggest thing that I've learned through all of this life is that through the reconnection to the church, it brought to light that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to have fault. It's okay to admit you're not perfect. And there's a lot of release and freedom wherein you can start to accept that you don't have to be what everybody thinks you should be. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be the best version of yourself that you can be at that time. And whether anybody else thinks that that's good enough or not is irrelevant. And that is very freeing when I felt that way, because I always felt like I was trying to live up to expectations, whether they were from, parents or in-laws or who it was. There was always the bar, just when you think you get to it, it would get inched a little bit higher. And you never quite get there, and you were always not quite good enough. And part of my reconnection with church and everything that I've done and I try to do is, it's okay if you're not perfect. That doesn't mean that you're not accountable for your screw ups, but it's okay not to be perfect. And there's a lot of that forgiveness and stuff that, I've had to learn, because nobody teaches you this crap. You figure it out by living it. So the real faith shows up more in actions than in words. So we got a royal decree for you this week. In the King's Court, faith isn't about perfection, it's about direction. And that's kind of what I was talking about. Everybody stumbles, right? Everybody, I don't care who you are or what you do, you're going to trip. You're going to stumble, you're going to fall, you're going to take 2 steps back. I can only hope that you've surrounded yourself with friends and family who will forgive you. And I can only hope that if that happens to you, you forgive yourself. Because there's no perfect person. There was one. And he's in heaven at the right hand of God. And if you don't believe that, then that's okay. You're still my friend. I still love you. You don't have to believe everything I believe. Just because I believe it and it's right doesn't mean that you need to believe it and you're wrong. But who's keeping score, right? It's all good. I just prefer to be on the right side of things when I die. So, all right. So that is Faith in the King's Court. As always, if you like this show, I encourage you to give me feedback, because I don't get it from anybody except for Vineet, who thinks that I should make $6,000 with my podcast. It's not going to happen. It's not that good of a podcast. But hey, somebody keeps listening and enjoying it. So I'm here for you. I got this for you, and I hope you enjoyed it again. You can send me a message on Instagram, Twitter, to my email account, or however you want to reach out to me. If you like the show, click the like button, subscribe. You'll get the drop when it comes out next week. It does come out every Wednesday, very early in the morning, West Coast time. So if you're in East Coast or otherworldly, not necessarily other galaxy, but somewhere else in the world. Although I will say it would be cool if there were like aliens listening to this. But one of my friends just got back from Egypt and said, there's no way that man built all these. Anyways, that's another show. Anyways, so we could do that, and send me a message or something. Reach out. Let me know how we're doing. If you like it, if you got ideas of what you'd like to hear about. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep rambling on like I usually do and hope you'll come back next week. So this is King Roberto saying goodbye. Thanks for listening to episode number 8. Goodbye. Turn it off. No, turn it off. Turn it off. Oh, man. I guess